Hi, and welcome to a new episode of In Conversation with me, Hugo Langton. And I'm really pleased to be joined by this week's guest, the former Gillingham manager, Steve Lovell. So welcome, Steve. How are you?
Yes, hi Hugo. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Very well.
Good, good. And look, we're going to talk about a very specific game in a little bit. I think it's a game that you took over when you initially became the manager at Gillingham. You had an away game at Peterborough. So we're going to talk a little bit about what went on and how it came to be and what went on with the game and the build up and stuff. But before we do that, be interesting just to have a quick chat about your background as a coach, manager, and where you've been and what you've done.
Yeah, it was. It started really when I was at Crystal Palace. I'd done my level one, as it was back there, at Crystal Palace when I was still playing with the likes of Henry Houghton and Jerry Murphy and Billy Gilbert and people like that. So through the apprenticeship, I did my level one coaching. And then as I went to Millwall and just concentrated on my football. And then when I went to Gillingham, I started to sort of get a little bit older, obviously, and look to the future. So that's when I went and did my U for B, and then finally my U for A. And it was perhaps when I came into my 30s, I thought at Gillingham that, it's something I would like to go into and keep the football in me after playing. So obviously did a bit of coaching locally, set up my own soccer schools during the holidays. So I got coaches in and just learned, got a little bit of experience from that. And then when at the final sort of couple of months of my contract at Gillingham, the manager went and I applied for the manager's job back in 1992, as it was. I was 32 years. 90, I was 32 years of age, and I thought, right, I'm at the end of my contract, and I applied for the manager's job, then player manager's job, and I got to the final interview. There was only two of us left, and myself and Glenn Roeder, who unfortunately passed away recently, and he obviously got the job. And because I was out of contract and I went for the manager's job, I sort of I didn't stay very long under Glenn Roeder. Obviously, he did the thing that most people would do, and if you're threatened by someone, you've got to let them go. So I went and I applied, went down to Sittingbourne and played down there, and that's where really I first started to get into coaching on a bigger level. Sittingbourne were a full-time club. I played there first as a player, and then took over as player manager, and then really took over the academy there, and had Alan Walker and Paul Haylock with me, and we that's when I really got into the coaching side of it, and then managed in non-league for many years after that as a player, and then as a manager. So it was a great sort of gradual progression through playing into the coaching, but it took a long time, obviously, to get to the point of where I actually managed in league football.
I think it's always it's interesting. I find that when players retire and they go and they get opportunities like the one that you try to get at Gillingham, that sometimes you see a lot that they go from player to manager and they struggle because obviously there's, as I'm sure you'll confirm, there's a big difference between playing and managing and coaching, and or kind of like having to go a harder route to find your way to where you want to be. And I think it's fair to say you certainly did that between when you went into Sittingbourne and when you got to Gillingham. So that rise there, I think, is a really interesting story, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it doesn't, like you said, Hugo, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of hours going, and there's a lot of belief in yourself as a person that one day you are going to manage. And as time goes on and it doesn't happen, and you don't get to the level where you'd like to get, it's very hard to keep going because you feel that the opportunity is gone. But it never is, and that proved to me when I did get the job. I've done every job under the sun. I've been in Gillingham, as a player, as a coach, as a community officer, working in the schools, working with the disabled, the wheelchair people, the girls. You did everything. You did everything there, and you do it because you love the involvement in football, and that is still good to this day now. So when I went back into Gillingham, first and foremost, when I came out of playing, I went to work for Charlton and worked with a really good academy up there with Steve Avery, and I had a great 6 years in the academy and worked with the likes of Joe Gomez and Esri Konza and all the boys, Carl and Grant, who have all come through and played Premier League football. Casey Palmer is a whole list. So I was with a really good academy, and that sort of gave me the sort of the fuel, I think, to go on and want to be a coach because of the way that they did it at Charlton. It was a fantastic way of coaching, on the field as well as off the field, looking after the players. The way they did things with Paul Hart was there at the time, and learned a heck of a lot of Paul Hart, how to play different systems, and how to go about it. So yes, every stage of my career after playing helped me to, when I went into league football, I knew how to manage it, how to do it, how to actually coach, how to manage players. I've worked under great managers like Terry Venables and George Graham, just to mention a couple. You take the things off them, and that you think, flipping heck, that's going to be great. I love the way he did that. And them kind of people was something I learned of. And the biggest thing for me is the way that you are with players. It's not a them and us. You're working with them to help them. You help the players. You help the players to become better players, to go on and play for other clubs. That's the way I always looked at it. Because if they're playing well and you're looking after them to go and play for other clubs, they're doing the job for you. Yeah. So my big belief was treating them players as an individual and treating them as one of my sons, if you like, and how I would like my son to be treated at a football club. I love the training, I love the coaching, and that was a massive thing for me as well, to actually get on the training ground, because I've always wanted, all through the time I was coming up as a player manager in the non-league game, I always wanted to have that full time where I've got 22 players on a Monday to a Friday to work on a system or work with things ready for the Saturday. And for me, when I got the job at Gillingham, that for the first time for me was perfect, to have them players to work with and work on systems, and for people to know their roles and responsibilities. And that was the biggest thing for me that we put into it, and I put into it. And I was lucky enough to be able to have 2.5 years of doing it.
So before you actually became it was initially an interim manager, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think you were part of Peter Taylor's staff, weren't you?
Yeah.
He was the manager, Peter.
Yeah, I was up Bromley actually. When I left originally, I went to Bromley under Neil Smith and was assistant to him under there. And then I got a call around about December time that A.D. Pennock was coming back to the club, and would I go and work with him and Jamie Day. So I went to speak to him, and I agreed to it. So I went to Neil Smith and said, look, Neil, these have come in, I'd like to go back. And he said, no problem. So he was brilliant about it, Smudger. So I went back to Gillingham and worked with AD and Jamie. And Peter Taylor then came as director of football. Right. So we all worked together down there. But things obviously the results didn't go very well. And in the end, AD and Jamie were released from their contracts, and Peter Taylor stayed on, and Peter wanted me to stay on and help him. So, which I agreed to, because I was under contract anyway. So I stayed and worked with Peter, and Peter was there for about, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I suppose. No, it must have been about a month. and I worked with him, and then I'll tell you the story now how I actually got the job. But then, yeah, I did work with Peter for about a month, and as his assistant.
Okay, so let's talk about the what
Right.
happened. But let's
Yes.
and then we can get into the Peterborough.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened? Like we were just talking about, you go through everything in life, and opportunities pass you by, and you think you're never going to get a chance to manage at a club that I loved and been a part of for 20 odd years.
Can I just add something here, Steve? I mean, I've
Yeah.
known you maybe 15 years now, and
Yeah.
I want to just put this on the table because obviously I was your assistant for a while as well, many years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always known your desire and love to get to that position at Gillingham.
Yeah.
I know it was one of your goals in life.
Yeah, and what it was really, Hugo, from even the time back in 1992 when I first was rejected, then it was still about 3 or 4 other occasions where I went to the chairman and said, look, just give me an opportunity, and I'll have a go. Just give me it, and it didn't happen. So anyway, the time when I was with Peter Taylor this time, and I was working, and I remember coming home in the car with my wife, Mary, and I'm driving down the road, and I said, well, I think Peter's got the job now. I said, I'm working with him. I don't think I'm ever going to get an opportunity to manage at the club. So we'll carry on as we are, and we'll see how this season goes. So I've turned into the drive, and I got out of the car, and there's a phone call from Paul Scally, the chairman. So I went to Mary and said, "It's the chairman." So I picked up the phone. I said, "Hello, chairman." He went, "All right, loves." He said, "Bit of bad news." I said, "Oh God, what's that?" He said that Peter Taylor has left the football club. I went, "Oh God, bloody hell, that's a bit of a shock." He said, "Yeah." He said, "But the good news is," he said, "I want you to take the team on Saturday." So it was amazing, Hugo, that from about 2 minutes earlier, I've just discussed about staying as an assistant, and I'm working till the end of the season, and we'll see how it goes from there. And perhaps I have to go somewhere else and work with the academy or do something. I was given the opportunity to go and work with the first team on the Saturday. So it was a shock. So I come in the house, and obviously the first thing I'm doing is get on the phone to Pato and say, "Look, this is Mark Patterson, who became my assistant manager. He was running the academy at the time." I said, "Look, this is the way it is. You're going to help me out?" And he said, "Of course I will." So I went in on the Thursday, which is on the Wednesday, I think, on the Thursday. So I stood in front of the players and said to them, "Look, this is the situation now. There's 2 ways we can go. We were struggling at the bottom. We either roll our sleeves up and we all have a go, and you're with me. And if you're not, come and knock on my door and I'll let you go. Otherwise, I'm with you all, and we'll work together, and we'll get out of this mess. So so I changed it. I changed the formation. I changed players positionally.
What was the formation previous to that? The game before, I think, was it Portsmouth, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think they drew 0-0 at home to Portsmouth. Peter liked playing a 3-5-2, or a very defensive way of playing. By the way he played it anyway, he liked to keep clean sheets, and obviously we all do. But it was a very very strict way of playing that 3-5-2, which it worked. It worked because we drew 0-0, so we didn't concede. But I didn't think we had anything going forward when we had some good attacking players in the squad at the time, and we weren't utilising them in the right way. So I changed to a diamond, and I took Sean Clare, who was a midfield player. I put him at right back because I could see him as a right back getting up and down the line. He was quick, and he was full of energy, good on the ball, and I thought he could give us something. We had Bradley Garmston on the left-hand side, who could go up and down, who could run all day. So I thought I'd play the diamond. I put Elliot List up front with Josh Parker, and we went to Peterborough with that team, and we won 1-0. And it was, I just told the boys to go out. We worked on it on the Thursday and the Friday, the system, very briefly, only for about perhaps half an hour a day. but I put it into their minds how it should happen defensively and attacking wise. And they went out and performed it brilliantly, and we won 1-0, but it could have been a lot more. Elliot List had 2 or 3 chances first half, and we could have won it quite easily. So it was a very, most probably one of the best moments, really, in my managing career, as it would be my first game as manager for Gillingham. But walking into that dressing room at the end of the game, when you've won the game 1-0, when we haven't won a game, I don't think, for the first 10, 12 games or whatever it was, and to turn it around there was a brilliant task.
Because this is quite interesting now, because obviously a lot of people, at all different levels of football, find themselves in this situation where not necessarily they're already part of the staff, but they go into a club, and they go in for a reason, because the manager's left for whatever reason, and maybe he's moved on to a better job, or just because the team's not performing.
Yeah.
In this case, it's because the team isn't performing. So it's interesting now. I mean, you mentioned about you stood in front of the players and you said, look, this is how it's going to be. You worked on certain things, but I mean, what other things could we maybe think about with regards to when you're in that situation? You've got 2 days before your first game to turn it around. I mean, what else did you do? I mean, obviously, apart from working on the one Diamond 2, but what else did you do to almost?
Well, when you take over a club that's struggling, obviously the first thing that is low is the confidence with players, because they don't believe in themselves. So I pull every player into the office individually. I spoke to them. I spoke to them about their strengths, how they feel that they've been playing, how they what they think is missing in their game, and just spoke to them. And then told them, look, you're here for a reason. You're here because you're a good player. You haven't shown it. It might be for you're playing out of position, or you're playing in a formation that doesn't suit you. But this is the way I see it, because I knew the players. I knew the players because I've been working there. So I knew I was every day I was going in and seeing them, and I spoke to AD about it, AD Pennick about it as well. And we did change formation later on in the season, because I had influenced AD to do that, because I felt that we needed to do it, because we weren't getting anything on the way that he wanted to play. So we did that, but obviously it was too late, and AD went. So when Peter came in, Peter had his own ways of doing things. So then and because it was only such a short period, I didn't have that sort of big influence on Peter, because he had his own ways of doing things. So it wasn't a massive influence I had on him because he's the ex-England manager. He's done everything in the game. So for me, as a one coming into it, I'm thinking, right, he knows what he's doing. Peter knows what he's doing. I'll just assist him in what he wants me to be assisted on, which I did do. So then when he went, it was an opportunity now for all these years waiting for me to put my own. I'm the boss. I haven't got to worry about doing this or doing that, because someone's looking over you. I'm in charge. I can do whatever I want, and it wasn't going to pass me by. After all these years, from 1992 to 2017, whatever it was, all them years waiting for the opportunity, I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to let it go. So this is where I took the players by the scruff of the neck. I said, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get ourselves out of it. We're going to start believing in ourselves. And this is what we're going to do. And we beat Peterborough. We drew with Wigan. We lost the next game, but we went to Rotherham and won. We beat Portsmouth. We had such a really good run. And then the good run came, and then later on, obviously, the chairman gave me the job full time because of the run that we had.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I always remember, and obviously, I know what your management style is like, having had I've been lucky to work with you many years ago. But I always noticed, because as you know, sometimes I came to visit you on your training grounds. Have a look, and just you know what it's like. One thing that I always stuck out with me, and I'd never seen this before, was that every player, when they arrived at training, they came over to you, they shook your hand, they looked you in the eye and said, "Good morning, Gaffer."
Yes.
That was a little bit of a laugh or joke with them briefly, and I could see, the real kind of bond almost between you and the players. That you had a great relationship with them.
Well, that's the thing that people always say about losing the dressing room. People, managers lose the dressing room, and that's that's a big saying in football. And it does happen. But it shouldn't happen if you've got a good relationship with the players and an honest relationship with the players. You tell them as it is. If they're playing badly, you tell them. If they're not going to be in the side, you're not rested, you're dropped because you haven't been doing this, you haven't been doing that. So you're trying to help the players. Players hate being dropped or left out of the team, but they're only out of the team for two reasons. One reason is that the team, as are in there, are playing really well, and you can't get them out because you're winning games. So that you're not going to worry about that. But the other reason is if they're not playing well. If they're not doing what they should be doing in the team, they're out of the team. They're left out. So you tell them that. Now it's up to you what you want to do as a player. Do you want to work hard at the things I'm telling you about to get back into the team? Or if you're not happy with it, you can go somewhere else. I'll let you go somewhere else. I want you to play football. You're a footballer. It's a short career. I'm not going to keep you at the club. If you're not going to get in my team, I'll tell you, and you can go. And a lot of players went from us because of that reason. They weren't going to get in my team. Not because they didn't want to, it's because I felt they didn't have a fit in the team at the time. I can't remember who they were at the time, but there was two or three that just, I thought, right, they're not going to get in the team. They might as well go and play somewhere else. And off they go. So you're honest with them. And the other members of the team then, of the squad, can see that. So that you're looking after these players. No point having them around if they're not going to be wanted at any stage. They might as well go and play somewhere else.
I've often thought as well is that, like when you're the manager or head coach, whatever the title is across Europe these days, is that, with players, is that if you say to them, I'm dropping you, you're not playing today for a tactical reason, or you give them some kind of excuse, that's where you lose them. And one thing I always promise myself, so my current job, where I'm the manager, is that from the moment I walked through the door, I thought, you know what, it was an opportunity for me because I've always been an assistant or a coach. And I thought, you know what, and I said to the players, I will always tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So you may not like it, but I will tell you the truth.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I think if you're honest with people, rather than give them bullshit because they'll see through that, and then they'll go behind your back and say to a player, and that's where the bickering and the gossiping and the other problems can begin, isn't it? Whereas if you know exactly where you stand, listen, if you're not going to join, the defensive training, if you're not going to if you're going to stop running after 65 minutes, then you're going to sit next to me. Yeah. They know I've got to run for 90 minutes.
Well, the discipline is a massive thing as well, because if the players aren't going to listen to what you're going to do, and you lose the dressing room when it becomes you start arguing in the dressing room. You should never argue in the dressing room. It should never be an argument. So if you nip that in the bud when you take over, if someone says something when I first took over at the club, I would have a go at them and say, look, just shut up, just be quiet and just listen to what I'm going to say. I'm the boss. If you're not happy with it, come and see me after and we'll talk about it. But during the game or during half time or before the game or whatever, this is what's going to happen. You do it my way. Do it my way. Not your way. You do it my way, because I know what's right. Now, it might not work, but this is my way. I'm the manager. I'm doing it the way I want to do it. Not what he wants to do it or he wants to do it. Mark Patterson's brilliant for me. Mark would give me ideas. Now, some of the ideas I'll go, flipping heck, Mark, yeah, that's brilliant. I'll do that. For others, I'll say, no, Pat, that's fine. I'm not doing it that way. There's substitutions. He'd say, what about this and that? I say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. This is the way I want to do it. So I would do it my way. And the discipline then stays, because players will know if I come in, the players know they're going to come in at half time. If they've had a bad half, they know they've had a bad half. They aren't going to be told, they know. So at half time, that is the time to put things right. That's gone wrong in the first half. There's no point shouting and bawling. You get up on that flip chart and it's right. This is what's gone wrong in that half. This is how we're going to change it in the second half. This is how we're going to put it right. So you go from a negative to a positive. They all know they haven't done it. You know they haven't done it. But by shouting and bawling at them, isn't going to put right.
Yeah, I've seen over the years, like a player will make a mistake in the first half and the opposition will go and score. And the manager will then, from the side, he'll scream at the player, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
It's almost like public humiliation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then go in at half time and the manager spends 5 minutes of his 10 minutes of the half time shouting at this player, humiliating him again in front of his mates. because that's what they are, his friends, his
Yeah.
teammates, right? But they go out in the second half, the player makes another mistake. Then it's in the second goal, the manager takes him off, humiliation complete. And I never understood that, because, like you said, is players that you don't need to tell someone if they've not been at their maximum, or if you're losing, whatever it might be. It's about, listen, if you're losing, this is how you get back into it. Winning, this is how you continue to win. And you're drawing this, like you said, you've been doing this. This hasn't worked, but if we did this or this, then
change. And that's what we used to do. We used to come in half time, and we'd go into the boot room before we went into the dressing room. Me, Pato, Coxie, and Cox, who's my first team coach. So the three of us would be in there, and we thought, right, what do you think? And we'd all have a little thing. I said, right, how are we going to put things right? Or it's going well, we're 2-0 up, we just keep them doing the same thing, which was the easier part, obviously. The hardest part is, how are we going to change? Are we going to make substitutions? Are we going to change formation? Because I would always have two formations that I would work on a Saturday, leading up to the team I'm playing against on the Saturday. So on the Thursday or Friday, we would work all through the week. We'd work on either a diamond and then a 3-4-1-2, which we would go into. So we all knew exactly. So we would say, right, are we going to change, or are we going to stay at half time? So we'd go in and say, right, boys, things are going great. We'll carry on, but we need to tweak this. We need to tweak that. You need to do this. You need to do this a little bit better. Or, right, we're struggling. We're going to change this. Sorry, you're coming off. You haven't done it today. You haven't done it today. You haven't done what we've asked you. But it's always next week. Don't worry. It's tactical. We got to change it. And the players would know. The players who have gone out and done their job, and they've done it for us, would know that if they're right or wrong, if we're right or wrong. If they've had a bad half, you know it as a player. You're walking off going, oh, I've had a nightmare. I better come off now. I better come off. And what used to happen was, I used to do it the other way, where, I used to bring him off most probably, and we go and win the game. But all it's only because there were certain things in the first half that he couldn't do. He has done them, but he didn't do them then. So to come to play on the Tuesday, that player that I brought off is thinking, I'm not playing on Tuesday. I'm not going to play Tuesday. So I picked the team on Monday, and he's in the team. So all of a sudden, he goes, flipping out, I'm back in the team. I'm in the team. Now I've got to do what the manager has told me, what Loves has told me, so to stay in the team. So he's learned, rather than knocking down, like you just said about bringing someone off and humiliation. You don't humiliate them. You pull them in and say, look, you didn't do this on Saturday, but I'm playing you on Tuesday because I know you can do it. And then that's the way it happens. Now, the player who comes on might have done okay, but it doesn't matter. I can live with him. I can talk to him about that. And I say, look, this is his last chance. This is the last chance the fella going on. Yeah. And if he goes on and we win the game, he plays well, he stays in. And it's done. It's done. It's just honesty. It's just honesty with players. Just honesty.
Just briefly then, going, as we're on talking about half times and stuff. So going back to the Peterborough game, your first game in charge now. What was the half time score?
I think we were 1-0. I think we were 1-0 up half time. I think Lee scored 1-0 half time.
Yeah, you've probably kind of answered this question already, but what was half time like for you? You won at Peterborough.
Yeah.
It's a tough game, Peterborough, always.
Oh yeah, Peterborough away is one of the toughest you get, and they were flying at the time, and we knew that they would come at us. They would come at us in the second half because they were 1-0 down, and they had some good players at the time. I think Marcus Maddison was playing, and he's a good player. They had Dembele, the players that they're really good players, really good players. So we knew that they'd come at us. So we said, look, we'll keep it as it is at the moment, because we were on top football. We were getting at them with the diamond. So we lasted about 20 minutes, I think, as a diamond. And I thought, right, we're going to have to change. It's changed. They're getting at us now from down the sides. Their full-backs are coming on. Because of the diamond, they're doubling up on us. So I went to a 4-4-2, I think, a 4-4-1-1 or something, and just sat in there and played on the counter-attack with Elliott and Josh Parker, who could run. So we did that. We sat in there, we defended properly, and then we just hit them on the attack, on the counter-attack, because they were committing men forward, and we created chance after chance. And that's the way I did. Even when we went to Charlton after that, we beat Charlton up there, doing it the same way. I would take the game to the team. I would play attacking. I wouldn't say go to anywhere. I wouldn't know where I would go and go, right, it's going to be a 0-0. We're going to play for a 0-0. No, I wanted to score. I wanted to be two up, and then we'll sit back.
Or in one game that I happened to watch, it was 7-5.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, in the trophy, yeah, some cup game. Yeah, I think
The
that was
Checker Trophy against Reading under 20.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. That was interesting, that one game. Yeah. But that was the second string that we had out. We had the young boys out in there.
Yeah, I know, because you were quite comfortable at half time, and you took off 3 senior players, obviously, to make them, and so it literally became like a youth game, because
it was.
Yeah. And it became like basketball and 7-5.
Oh, it was 7-5. Blimey, yeah.
I remember watching your facial expressions in the dugout with Mark Patterson, and your facial expressions were, wow, what's going on?
It's one of them games that you really enjoy a lot of it, because some of the goals that we scored were brilliant. And then you look at it, and the defensive side of it was, but we did have a young side out, and it was a chance to give them a run out in the game in them cup games. But but the Peterborough game was a start really of a really good run that we had.
Well, I think it's fair to say, your tenure at Gillingham, you certainly punched above your weight, for a long time, and and it was great to see you as as someone that we've known each other quite a long time. See you take the opportunity in the way that the supporters as well, they got behind you, and I think that a lot of it, if you put a supporter's hat on, you're kind of one of their own, having had such a long association with the club, and I know everyone wanted you to succeed, didn't they? And they wanted the chairman to give you the opportunity to carry it on, and you weren't about to do it, So
no, it was that side of it was fantastic. The supporters were brilliant. They always were brilliant for me, home and away. If
you live in the area as well, remember?
Pardon?
And you live in the area as well, so when you're
I live 5 minutes from the ground, which was brilliant, and no, they were fantastic, and we had some really good trips. Portsmouth, we went to Portsmouth twice down there and beat them with 20,000 fans down there, and having 2,000 of our fans down there each time were tremendous games. Beating Rotherham away, and it was Cardiff in the FA Cup, and we had great times, and we did okay. We got them out of trouble. We were right bottom when we took over. We got them up to 18th place the first year, I think, out of the relegation, and then the next year we finished 13th. I think joined 12th or 13th. We finished. So we did okay. We did okay, and a disappointing thing really. I just didn't get the final year of my 3-year contract. I didn't get to build on what we were building. And that was the only disappointing thing. But football is football, and the chairman wanted to change, and you respect that. You respect that, and and Steve Evans has come in and is doing a very good job there at the moment. So you can't knock that.
I think just to wrap it up now, I think the big things to take away that we've spoken about is it's always great to get an insight into people's thinking about how they do things and stuff. But I think one of the most important messages that has come out of this, Steve, for me is it's not an easy journey, is it? You've highlighted it took you 25 years to get from 1992, I think you said it was, to 2017 to the one job that you really, really wanted and craved. 25 years, and in that 25 years, it wasn't about just doing that. It was
it was.
People need to understand this.
No, and I think that's the big thing, Hugo. I think a lot of coaches, perhaps they will do their qualifications, do their coaching badges, which I think are brilliant for the knowledge, to learn the knowledge of the game. But it doesn't mean that once you've got them badges, you're going to walk into a job straight away. If you look at how the percentages of coaches out there and how many jobs there are up for grabs, and there's managers now that have managed in league football for years are still out of work looking for jobs. So it's a very, very difficult time, but you've got to, the one thing you've got to do is keep believing in yourself. and keep hoping that something will happen. And like I said to you, you know, the Gillingham job, I didn't think it would get it. It was 25 years, and you're thinking, well, the time is gone. But it happens, and it can happen, and it can happen to anybody at any time. Any time something can happen. You know, the phone call can ring whenever you don't expect it. You can get an offer for a job when you don't expect it. So, and that's the beauty of the game of football. I think that's the industry that we're in. Is you can't sort of you can't plan anything, and everything can happen at any stage. And like a football game, you know, it takes a second to score a goal, and you know you can't. You know, if you could sort of plan the results every week, we'd all win the pools, wouldn't we? So it's one of them that it's a great game. We all love it, and it's the people. It's the people in the game that I like. You know, there are good people in the game that you come across. But the main thing for me is looking after the players and making sure the players are happy. And if they're happy, they're gonna do the business for you. And that's what we had at Gillingham. The players loved working for us, and we had a great relationship with the players. And I still have now with the players. I'm still in contact with them all the time. So it was a great day, that Peterborough day. Really good day, good result, and it was a start of the next 4 or 5 years of my journey.
Brilliant. Listen, Steve, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experiences with us on this episode. You know, and I would have thought, whilst this is big messages for coaches within this conversation, I do know a lot of Gillingham fans will take a lot of interest in this, and I hope they've enjoyed listening to you as well. So
thank you, Hugo.
Thank you very much, Steve, for sharing it with us.
Thank you. Thanks, Hugo.